Radio. Anúnciate en Radio Leo 1170. Comunícate con nosotros. 939-229-1170. 939-229-1170. En Radio Leo estamos en continuo crecimiento y conectados siempre. Esta es WLEO 1170 AM Ponce, una emisora de la Iglesia Episcopal Diócesis de Puerto Rico. Radio Leo, conectados siempre. Saber cómo enterarse es mantenerse en contacto. Escúchanos en Radio Leo 1170M y radioleo1170.com. Esto es En Contacto.
Bueno, estamos de regreso, soy Luis José Moura y este es tu contacto con las noticias a esta hora a través de Radio Leo. Bueno, la Fiscalía Federal en Puerto Rico anuncian los siguientes resultados de la investigación y procesamiento que fue creada por una orden ejecutiva para combatir organizaciones criminales transnacionales, incluidos carteles, redes de tráfico y organizaciones terroristas extranjeras en Puerto Rico.
Muy buenos días a todos. Gracias, Director Koenig, por organizar ese evento y por todo lo que usted, su equipo y el programa de Haida trabajan para hacer de Puerto Rico un lugar más seguro. Es un honor y un privilegio. Deadly drugs like fentanyl, as well as the great work on prevention and treatment programs like drug-free communities. The fact that you are here underscores the strategic importance of Puerto Rico and what Puerto Rico plays in the countering transnational threats and their impact on communities and families throughout Puerto Rico and the nation. It also underscores your commitment to protecting the people of Puerto Rico from those threats, including the violent crime that is often associated with drug trafficking. This morning, including a discussion of our Caribbean Border Interagency Group, CBIG, and our Homeland Security Task Force Initiative. As you all have seen in the last just 2 weeks, these law enforcement partnerships remain strong and are taking violent criminals off the streets of Puerto Rico and dismantling transnational criminal gangs. It is also an honor and privilege to welcome back to Puerto Rico Chief Postal Inspector Gary Barksdale. I would like to thank Chief Postal Inspector Barksdale and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service for increasing their personnel and resources in Puerto Rico and their interdiction program that we are highlighting here this morning. One thing to emphasize as you look at the table in front of me, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service interdiction efforts is that it is not only stopping cocaine and other contraband going from Puerto Rico to the continental United States, is also stopping and interdicting deadly contraband. Firearms that you see on the table here, our law enforcement partners are taking off the streets, as well as the critical component of that interdiction program is that the U.S. Postal Inspection Service has awarded us a Special Assistant U.S. Attorney, Edwin Caban, who I thank, who is here today, who's the go-to person for the program involved in the interdiction of contraband. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Postal Inspector Barksdale.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning. Buenos dias. Certainly my privilege to be with you today. I do want to start by thanking, the people that are sharing the stage with me today. Certainly John for hosting us here, our HIDA director, Stephen, my good friend, that's been very, very kind to us. And as he said, it's certainly a pleasure to be able to accompany Director Carter from ONDC with us. but also all the men and women that are standing here with me today. When we talk about our efforts in San Juan and Puerto Rico, none of them could be accomplished without the group that's standing behind me, and we're certainly proud to be a part of the local HSTF operation here in San Juan and Puerto Rico. As he said, I'm the Chief Postal Inspector for the United States Postal Inspection Service. As many as you may know, the Inspection Service, we're the law enforcement arm of the Postal Service. Our mission is to protect all postal employees and all of its customers, which is the entire American public. We also enforce the laws that defend our nation and our mail system from illegal or dangerous use. Now, for 250 years, the Postal Service has been a vital part of our nation's infrastructure. It has a vast delivery network that reaches every neighborhood, every business, and every household 6 days a week. It delivers more than 370 million pieces of mail and almost 24 million packages every day to 168 million households and business across the United States and all of its territory. Now, unfortunately, criminals are eager to exploit this network. Far too often, they use the postal system to mail items that should never end up in the mail stream, which is why combating drug trafficking through the mail is one of our highest priorities. With the introduction of cocaine and fentanyl and other deadly synthetic opioids, this mission now is more critical than ever before. And we will spare no expense in resources or manpower to stop the flow of these drugs, to arrest those who would mail them, and to disrupt their networks. I'd like to say three quick things today. First, the Postal Inspection Service is proud to be a part of San Juan HSTF, and we're going to increase our resources here. Our partner agencies represented here today, they really work together as a force multiplier. We're a united front, and as Stephen said earlier, the meeting we had today really demonstrated the united front that's here today. We're all committed to fighting drug trafficking. The effort here is truly a whole of government approach. Now, we also work very closely with our state and local partners. Here in Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico Police Department is a critical part of our team, and we would not have the success we've had without them. Together, we work tirelessly to identify, disrupt, and dismantle drug trafficking organizations. A critical part of this team are the task force officers and canines from the Puerto Rico Police Department. In January of 2026, we launched Operation Camino a Sierra. I probably didn't say that correctly, but Operation Path to Zero. Since January 1st, we've removed approximately 450 parcels from the mail containing over 600 kilos of cocaine, all destined to the United States. This was the result of hard work between us and our partners. This new dedicated interdiction team and the Path to Zero initiative has allowed our local narcotics team here in San Juan, along with our task force officers, to focus on addressing inbound contraband, specifically firearms and deadly fentanyl. As you can see, not only have we seized cocaine, but a number of guns. Just since the start of this initiative, we've seized 63 firearms from the mail stream. As you can probably understand, we're an agency with a huge responsibility to the American public. And I cannot overstate how important our law enforcement partners are to our mission. Our approach to preventing and solving crimes, we get dangerous drugs and dangerous drug dealers off the street, and we hold them accountable. I'm so grateful for the support and backing of our Homeland Security Task Force here on Island and our local partners. Now, my second point. By removing drugs and illegal firearms from the mail here, specifically in Puerto Rico, we're making a meaningful impact on the fight against drug-related violence, as evidenced in the guns that we removed. In Puerto Rico alone, over the past year, we've seized over 68 pounds of fentanyl coming onto the island, and we arrested 39 other individuals in regards to that. We're working hard to keep deadly fentanyl and illegal firearms from coming onto the island and cocaine from transiting to the mainland. And finally, as Chief Postal Inspector and the head of the United States Postal Inspection Service, I'm committed, and my team is committed to, we will not allow the mail to be used by drug and firearms trafficking organizations operating in Puerto Rico or any other community. If you're trafficking drugs through the mail, you are now on notice. You will be identified and you will be brought to justice. It's now my pleasure to introduce Director Carr.
Wow, thank you. Thank you all for being here today. I feel so blessed to be with the best of the best up here. People that are willing to do whatever it takes to keep our children and our nation safe. And you're right, they will be brought to justice. But as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, before I go into my remarks, how many parents I talk to every day. Every day that I go into the office in Washington, D.C., or I travel around the country, I get a call from a parent. Leo's dad, who Leo was only 2.5 years old when he accessed fentanyl that his mother was addicted to, and then died on a visitation to her home. Or the families that walk into their child's bedroom, 12 years old, picked up some, what they thought was quote unquote Adderall on the internet, something mailed to their house, and their mother or dad walks in the room and finds them dead on the floor. There's no chance for revival. They had no idea, in the safety of their own home, where their child is supposed to be safe, they now see their child that they had so many hopes and dreams for, lying dead in the room that they made for them. That is pretty powerful. It's something that I believe every mother and father in this room, every mother and father in Puerto Rico and in the United States doesn't even want to imagine. But it's a reality we're all living with every day. Just look at this table. Look at this operation. Look how many lives are saved with what we see right in front of us right now. I really, truly want to thank you all for joining us here today, because this is ongoing. Chief Barksdale and I have been talking about this since before I was actually confirmed. I want to hit the cartels at every choke point. I don't want them to have any access. I don't want our adversaries to have any access. I don't want them to rest. I don't want them to sleep. I want them to understand that the full might and power of the United States government is on them, that we are putting our foot on them, that we are holding them down, that their choke points, now we're going to turn that around on them, are going to be ours. Under President Donald J. Trump's leadership, the United States continues to wage a relentless offensive against this scourge of illicit drugs and death. The weapons going outbound, all of it. With our land borders secured, smugglers are attempting to find new ways of moving poisons into the United States. Puerto Rico in particular, y perdona que yo no voy a hacerlo en español porque mi español es bien malo, yo no practico suficiente, pobre mamá mía. No es suficiente para hacer esto, pero yo voy a practicar, te prometo. Yo voy a regresar y yo voy a hacerlo entero en español, el último viaje. These smugglers who continue attempting to move cocaine into the United States by offloading drug boats on the island, and then moving cocaine to the rest of the United States through domestic shipping. The danger, however, as I have already stated, is not limited to the American mainland. Puerto Ricans, too, are being poisoned by drugs, particularly fentanyl, also brought to the island by mail. Just take a look at what we have here. The President's Homeland Security Task Forces are committed to protecting Puerto Rico from drugs as we are any other part of the United States. The work of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service and our HIDA teams, which I'm so proud of, demonstrates this commitment. Since USPIS began its interdiction in January, you've seized, look at the cocaine, the firearms, all of the parcels, over 20 pounds of xylazine, tranq. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen people addicted to heroin who is adulterated with xylazine, but it's horrific. I spend a lot of time traveling the United States. I was in Kensington and Philadelphia many times, spent time on the ground in Oakland and San Francisco, in my home state of Texas, in San Antonio. And it is so gruesome to see the necrosis on the skin, and to see people continuing to inject themselves despite the fact that they may be missing half of their arm. I've seen that with my own eyes. This should not be the United States of America. This should not be acceptable. And remember, every one of the people, whether they're addicted or whether they were poisoned and killed, they were somebody's child. They were somebody who had hope. They were somebody who maybe had a brother or sister or a friend who loved them, and then they were lost, living somewhere on the streets. They're human beings, and we need to remember that, and this is why we're doing this. We're doing this for them. And half a kilogram of fentanyl that was inbound for Puerto Rico. That half a kilogram of fentanyl may not sound like much, but it is enough to potentially kill 250,000 people, or about 80% of San Juan. This is fantastic progress. Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you so much, everyone here, for our Homeland Security task forces and our U.S. Attorney. But it is only the beginning of our work. No matter how drug traffickers try to smuggle the drugs into the United States, we will stop them. We will defend our borders, our waters, our airspace, and our mail. But we will not just defend. We will continue to attack the criminal empires responsible for waging this chemical war on the American people. At home, we are working diligently to maximize the intelligence potential of every arrest to illuminate the full extent of the trafficking networks, to dismantle their operations through decisive actions against key leaders and facilities. And abroad, we continue to build a growing coalition of international partners to facilitate intelligence sharing and secure international chemical supply chains. Through intelligence sharing, we are leaving the cartels and other criminal enterprises and empires with nowhere to hide. And through improved supply chain security, we are starving them of the precursors they need to manufacture their poisons. This operation is more than a drug seizure. It represents another step taken in our nation's journey to win this fight. And through that journey, and though that journey may be long, every step brings us closer to victory. And this is for every single mother and father, every friend, every aunt and uncle, for every person, even in my own personal life. We've seen this, who has lost their life because of this poison, and who has lost their life because the cartels were allowed for far too long to operate with impunity, making hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions, trying to out-resource and outman us with no bureaucracy. Their time is over, and my message to the cartels is this: you're done. The entire whole of government is coming after you. We are going to take you financially. We are going to take your resources, and we are going to dismantle and destroy you. Thank you. We'll be happy to take your questions.
Preguntas.
Es recurrente los search warrants que están saliendo en los dockets, y hay algunos que ustedes han realizado allanamientos a vehículos y a hogares. ¿Cuántos han sido procesados desde enero hacia acá?
Bueno, como está en un anuncio, nosotros como parte de esa iniciativa hemos hecho, no sé cuánto están en el documento, como 400 órdenes para examinar los paquetes. Entonces hay diferentes partes de las investigaciones que nosotros hacemos. Además, también podemos usar esos paquetes no solamente para confiscar la droga, pero también para hacer, como decimos, control deliveries, ¿ok? Para seguimos investigando aquí en Puerto Rico o también en los Estados Unidos. No puedo dar un número exacto de todas esas investigaciones que nosotros tenemos, pero es parte del programa que nosotros tenemos dentro de esa iniciativa.
¿Y por qué este año han reforzado este aspecto de atacar paquetes de correo, ¿verdad? De ir contra los paquetes? Porque en el docket aparecen, o sea, cuando uno busca los casos del día, aparecen 7 y 8 search warrants dirigidos a estos paquetes.
Okay.
¿Verdad que no se veía antes tanto?
As I said before, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service has been providing additional resources to Puerto Rico. And part of this initiative and the realization about the threat in Puerto Rico has led them to add additional resources and to continue to add resources, not just in Puerto Rico. Through the Special Assistant U.S. Attorney Program, they're seeding U.S. Attorneys' offices throughout the United States to partner in this mission, because it's not just arresting or seizing the parcels before they leave, it's also attacking the drug organizations in the United States that are receiving the merchandise that are part of this initiative. So while you're seeing just search warrants on the docket, there's a whole investigative team behind that, and not just Postal Inspection Service that was described here, and all the partner agencies that are here in Puerto Rico, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, as part of this HIDE-N, as part of this program. What we're seeing is just the additional resources coming to Puerto Rico through this administration and through this. I'll tell you also, recently my office received 5 additional assistant U.S. attorneys, 5 more prosecutor positions as part of this battle to add resources, because we do realize that Puerto Rico is a choke point, is strategic to the nation's war against these cartels.
Además de añadir más recursos, pudiese ser el caso de que entonces se están moviendo más estos carteles a utilizar el correo en vez de, por ejemplo, las embarcaciones para traer fentanilo, otras drogas y armas. Además del aumento en recursos, puede ser que hay una modalidad que ha aumentado.
Bueno, lo que hemos visto es, con el fentanilo, obviamente, una manera más fácil para que esa droga llegue a Puerto Rico desde California, desde Arizona, desde esos países donde están entrando la mayoría del fentanilo, es bueno, ponerlo en un paquete y enviarlo por correo a Puerto Rico, en vez de otra, o puede traerlo en avión o embarcación, pero que hemos visto que la mayoría de la droga está entrando por México, está creando la droga ahí, pues así no vemos eso. Eso no ha cambiado, en realidad no es algo nuevo, es la forma que ellos han hecho por décadas de traer la mercancía aquí. Siempre cambian, si empezamos. Ojalá que con esa iniciativa dejen de usar el correo. My dream is, my hope is, that when they see that they're stopping every package that's leaving Puerto Rico by the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, then they got to figure out another way to do it. Path to zero is just that, right? Path to zero. We want zero use of the mails to send drugs to the United States. We want zero use of the mails to send guns to Puerto Rico, to send fentanilo to Puerto Rico. So,
can I add to that really quick? I just want to add this, and then I'll have Chief Barksdale add on to what I'm saying. When I first came on board, when I was a special advisor before actually getting confirmed, one of the major issues I wanted to tackle was all the different choke points. We had seen what was happening at the southern border. We know that the cartels will devise new and better methods of moving their narcotics, and especially precursor chemicals, even from adversarial nations, or coming from as far away as the east as China or India and other places. So when I saw some of the numbers, not just here in Puerto Rico, but in Alaska, for example, where you have a population of over 750,000, right? And then you see that the number one killer is fentanyl, at that time, for people between the ages of 18 and 45, and you're like, well, how's it getting in? What's going on? And how is it moving? Because areas are so remote. Well, they're using the mail. They're bringing it through the ports. They find new and more innovative ways, and then the cost goes way up, right? So the people that are being targeted are the most vulnerable people, right? So our job is to find out how to help the most vulnerable and to protect our nation at the same time. And President Trump has made it a priority. We are going to save lives. We've got to do whatever we need to do to stop these cartels. It's dismantle and destroy and find their choke point. So even the mail becomes a vector for us. And Chief, I think that.
Yeah, I understood part of the question, but what I would say is, as Sarah and Stephen was describing, one thing that's critically important is Our work here in Puerto Rico, particularly the interdiction effort here, the increased presence that we're going to be here, the increased pressure we're going to be here, is really just part of the overall strategy to reduce their entire supply chain. As Sarah described, is one part of the supply chain. We recognize that the U.S. mail touches every household, so in some regards, that gives any drug dealer access to every household in America. We want to cut that down and make it very difficult for them to use the mail to do that. So you'll see that don't see here is everything that we do will be shared with all of our partners, so that intelligence can be used across the other transportation modes as well.
Entonces, este programa de alguna manera u otra, sabemos que con la administración Trump han habido iniciativas para parar el narcotráfico que viene de Venezuela. De alguna manera u otra, este programa también está vinculado con eso.
Talking about Venezuela being linked to the organization.
Buenos días, yo soy inspector postal, ya Michael Bonder, portavoz para la oficina aquí en San Juan. De cierta manera no está directamente ligado, pero el HSTF, siendo, ¿verdad?, una organización que se crea con la ayuda de todas las agencias, pues sí es un esfuerzo conjunto que también, ¿verdad?, va de la mano con las interdictions, los interdictions que suceden en alta mar, que se estaban haciendo, ¿verdad?, con el Coast Guard y los otros compañeros.
¿Puedes repetir su nombre y apellido?
Ya Michael Butler.
Gracias.
Ya, mire, usted puede en español, por favor, porque yo sé que los compañeros necesitan. ¿Ha llegado a Puerto Rico maquinaria, algún tipo de indumentaria especial para ustedes poder decir que ese paquete tiene algún tipo de contaminante, algún químico que pudiese ser cocaína, fentanilo o arma, o cómo ustedes verifican todo eso?
Sí, eso es parte de nuestras técnicas investigativas, ¿verdad? Y por razones obvias y de seguridad, pues nosotros no entramos a discutir ni a especificar ese tipo de iniciativas.
Pero como parte de ese proceso, ¿han recibido algún tipo de adiestramiento o readiestramiento para identificar paquetes sospechosos?
Particularmente no, lo que ha sido realmente es el incremento de los recursos, porque las técnicas, ¿verdad?, y todas las otras demás herramientas siempre han sido las mismas, y esto es algo que ha sido continuo.
Hemos visto ahí cocaína, pero ¿qué tipo de narcótico es el más que utilizan el correo para distribuir?
La realidad es que vemos diferentes tipos de narcóticos, no hay uno en particular que podamos decir esto, ¿verdad?, qué es eso.
Esto, por ejemplo, es xylazine, okay? Horse tranquilizer that they mix with the cocaine. Xylazine mixed with the fentanyl means that the fentanyl is more deadly. Okay? Y mencionaste lo de Venezuela. Estos kilos vienen de Sudamérica, vienen de Venezuela, vienen de Colombia, vienen de esos países que están enviando ese veneno a los Estados Unidos. Entonces, obviamente eso tiene que ver con atacando los carteles en Venezuela, en Colombia, en diferentes países, Santo Domingo también, en la República Dominicana.
O sea que con este programa la droga que está viniendo es de distintos países, de distintos carteles.
Claro.
Pero, ¿cuáles son las organizaciones principales, organizaciones criminales principales que representan una amenaza a la región?
Como ustedes han visto en las últimas 2 semanas, bueno, esas gangas como la familia Nunca Muere, como eso, la FARC, esas gangas tienen relaciones con los suplidores, okay? The source countries, they have direct ties, and members of their organization are in the Dominican Republic, are in Venezuela, are in Colombia, and the merchandise that they bring in, you know, when a drug boat with 500 kilos lands in Guanica or en Luisa, right? Hay un grupo de aquí que está recibiendo esa mercancía, pues ellos son miembros de esos gangas, esos carteles que están enviando la droga a Puerto Rico para también mandarlo para los Estados Unidos.
Miren en los dos que...
Can I say something to that? And you asked a very good question. Tu pregunta fue buena porque sí, ¿qué significa todo esto? So where did this all come from? Who are the main players? We're dealing with a global threat. La familia Nunca Muere is connected to a cartel that is moving cocaine here to Puerto Rico, is moving, xylazine, like he said, tranquilizer to Puerto Rico, the fentanyl. Everybody's kind of connected and paying out their taxes to whatever supplier is giving them the illicit narcotics, right? So it's a global issue. Our global supply chain is important. We just released our national drug control strategy. I was so grateful for the team that worked on it. It was incredible. Just last week, we made it public at our summit. And one of the main focuses that we have as an administration under President Trump is to ensure a clean supply chain. And you can see that this supply chain, this is just in the mail. This doesn't even include cargo that's coming, through maritime or by air or over land. So imagine all the choke points that we have to look at, and it is global. And you're absolutely right, sir. It is a unified effort with our Homeland Security Task Force team here to ensure that we not just look at one fragment, but where that fragment connects to and its web, throughout, not just here in Puerto Rico, but throughout the United States and throughout Central and South America and the rest of the world. Because some of this came as far away as China.
Okay. ¿Existe inteligencia federal que vincule estas rutas de narcotráfico con organizaciones hostiles hacia Estados Unidos? Geopolíticamente hablando, con la situación en Irak.
24